In this section, we're going to learn how to create what is known as a flyout menu. Basically, it's a menu that responds with a rollover that has animation, and when we retract from the button, the animation also goes in reverse. Instead of just popping off, it actually has a sophisticated element where there's reverse animation on the roll-off. So let me just demonstrate this right now with this finished file. I'm just going to go to Test Movie. You can see here I've got what is a main menu navigation button. When I roll over it, it does respond, but you also notice that the three sub-menu elements come flying out animated from 0 transparency to 100%, and also they fly out from left to right. And if I roll off of the menu, they will fly back to the left and disappear. So rolling over, rolling away. Now all of these sub-menu buttons also have navigation attached to them, as well as rollover features. So if I click on Song, it takes me to the Song page, where you'll create a movie clip with a song and a progress bar. And if I go to the video link, it goes to the video page, and you'll embed a video on the page with some controls. And then finally, a contact page where you'll just put your first name and last name. Now the way this works is it's in fact a movie clip with several buttons inside of the movie clip and some animation triggered with some action script. So let me go to the finished file and explain the architecture of this file. And I'll just close this now. And you can see here again I've got a finished file, and on my main root timeline I've got it broken up into 4 layers. The one background layer, which is actually my menu, so maybe I'll actually rename that layer Menu. Save my file. And then a content layer, which you can see is divided up into 4, itemized by the different labels. Song, frame 20 is the video page, and frame 30 is the contact page. And I think I'll just reduce this to fit as well. Fit in window. And you can see here that I've got some little elements on my content layer to tell me where I'm at. Now if I go into the main menu, you can see again it's a movie clip, and this is where most of the action takes place. We're on our root timeline, but there is a movie clip that is persistent across the whole movie, as you can see here, with some navigation and some animation. So I'm going to double click that now. And you can see inside here I've got a multi-layered setup within this movie clip, which is actually my navigation menu. So let me just start here with the different layers. At the top, of course, I got my action scripts, then my 2 labels, and then 1 label for each sub-menu item that comes flying out. So one for the song, one for the video, one for contact, and then one also for the main menu button, and then one for my invisible button. I actually don't need this layer 8, so I'm going to delete that. There we go. Now the way that this actually works is I've got a stop command on frame 1, and I've got a frame label called static as well, because I'm going to ultimately send my playhead back here at a certain point. And if I just drag my playhead across, you'll see when I get to frame 10 that the animation of the menu flying out begins. So if I just scrub across, you see that first item called Song start to get more opaque, and when it hits this keyframe it's fully opaque and in its resting position. But I did put a keyframe at the end to hold that distance, and the reason for that is I took this element, I duplicated it and brought it over here, and then inverted it. And you can invert it again by right-clicking and just choosing reverse keyframes. Okay, so I did that for each. Now you'll notice where I start and stop. So the first one again, it runs about 5 frames in its animation and then stops and holds its position. And again, I did keyframe that last frame as well, so that when I copied this, the keyframes will stay intact in their relative positions. So I copied it with an Alt click and drag over here, and then a right click again to reverse keyframes. And I did that on all 3 levels. So once the one element is in its resting position, I started the animation of the second element, which is the button called video. If I drag my playhead across, you see it starts to come in and then gets its resting position, and you can see it indicated by this keyframe, and that holds true till the end of that tween. And again, for the third one called contact, which starts on frame 20, it comes in and then rests. So once again, I took this with a Alt click and drag to duplicate it. I dragged its partner over to here and then reverse the frames, and the same for this one. Now this button called main menu is persistent, and it just stays inside of this movie clip for the whole duration. Now when I get to frame 25, which is where all of my buttons have moved out and found their resting spot, I have a stop command here. And I also have some action script relating to the 4 buttons, the 3 buttons which are my navigation, which actually navigate on the scene 1 route timeline, and then my invisible button, which is this big blue area, which is what creates the retraction. And the code attached to that button is a play command. In other words, when my mouse rolls off of these buttons and into this blue area, invisible button, it starts my playhead to play, and that's what causes the reverse animation. And then when it gets to the end of that animated sequence, I have one more action script in frame 42, it looks like here, telling me to go back to the marker, to the label rather, called static. And if I open that up, you'll see here, go to and stop, bracket static. Okay, now let me go over here again. Here's my main menu. It does have an instance name, main menu underscore btn. And I've attributed some code to that using my code snippets. I actually went to my code snippets and I did a rollover event handler. So mouse over. Now I'm not going to do it now, but I double clicked on that and I'll show you what the result of that was. If I go to my actions. Main menu underscore btn, it adds an event listener, and the event is the mouse over, and the command is go to and play over, because I want the playhead to continue on once it reaches that frame. So once it gets here, it carries on. And then once it gets here, it stops. And let me show you all the action script on that layer. Now there's action script for 4 buttons as well as a stop command. So there's my stop command. There's my invisible button event listener. Again, the command on that is play. So I'd have to go to my code snippets, generate a mouse over event listener, and then apply the action play. And that starts my playhead. And if I go down, I can see that all of my buttons, which are navigational on the main timeline, have been plugged in with a mouse click event. And the command line, because I'm going up to a different movie clip level, it's movie clip, brackets root, dot, go to and stop, song. Now I do have the labels on that main timeline, and that's what this is referring to, is that label. So I have the same command, relative same command, for all 3 buttons, which is based on a click event, sending it to the appropriate label on the root timeline. Now once you're back up on the root timeline, let me go back up here. Again, here are the labels that we were referring to. I also want you to input in the content area what I've indicated in text here. I want you to create a movie clip with a song and a progress bar, as we've done in a previous lesson. And on frame 20, under the video page, I want you to include a video that's been processed as an FLV with a video component so that I can play a video when I'm on this page. And on the contact, I simply want you to put text in with your last name and first name. Now I'm not going to step-by-step this. These are all things that you have previously learned, and we're just reapplying it in a very practical scenario on this video. So once again, let me go back down into the main menu, which is my navigation system. I'll go to that middle action script and just quickly review the actions for the navigation. So I just want to inform you or remind you, it's a go to and stop. And to get to the top movie level, the root timeline, we do need to add the movie clip brackets root dot before the command line. Otherwise, we'd be telling it to move on the same timeline, and we actually want to send it the playhead command to the parent timeline, which happens to be the root in this case. And that is your assignment for today. I'll just run it one more time here. Control, test movie, test. And if I roll away, it retracts, roll back over. You notice all of my buttons do have a rollover effect as well. Main menu, the second part of the word gets italicized. These get italicized and change red. And of course, they will send the playhead on my root timeline to the appropriate label. And I do want you to actually put in the content as requested with the black text. Okay, so once again, that is your assignment for today.